and everything. Hey, I think we're live. Maybe. I don't know. We'll see. We'll see if it starts up. It takes YouTube about 5 minutes to way too long. 5 minutes in my time. So anyway,
Yeah.
So I went to Target this morning and I bought a rubber ducky. Anyway, oh shit.
Yep.
Wow.
Gotta fix that echo.
Hang on a second. What the
Yeah. You do. I don't know if I'm echoing or not, but because I cannot hear myself.
Yeah. Okay. Can you hear me now?
I can hear you.
No,
fine.
you're not. No. Is everything cool now?
Everything is copacetic. I mean, that's how it's supposed to be, right? Like if I could hear myself, I would interrupt myself constantly.
What the fuck is going on?
I mean, we're good if you're good.
Okay. I think I got it straightened out. I hear no. Okay. Can I hear you, James?
Yeah, I think you can.
Yeah. Okay. And you can hear me. Damn. I had videos on 2 different browsers, and I'm old and confused.
You and me both. You and me both.
Anyway, shit. Yeah. So I was saying I went to Target this morning and bought a rubber ducky. And it has 2 little duckies that follow it. So I got 3 little rubber duckies. And why would I buy a rubber ducky? I've never had an urge to buy a rubber ducky in my entire life. But I have a cat. And this cat is like so fascinated with the whole concept of water. I mean, anything with the toilet, with the sink, with the bathtub. And he is just totally just taken with water. And I thought I'd entertain him a little bit by putting a rubber ducky out there. And I'm hoping I could lure him into reaching for it again, like he did with he did it with a cap that he knocked into the tub, and he ended up swimming. He ended up diving into the tub and swimming out. Because I'm trying to teach him to swim. I'm trying to teach him to swim because I'm a good parent, right? And this might be a skill that he needs in his life someday. So, I'm looking out for him, the little guy.
Yeah, you're a good daddy.
A good dad, yeah.
You're a good dad.
We'll see if he reaches for the duck when it floats across. I can't wait to try it out this evening. So,
well, it might help if you make a hat for the rubber ducky made out of catnip.
Ooh. And well, the rubber ducky has a little place where you can stick the little ducks. It's like a boat. And I could fill that with catnip.
As long as he could smell it, like he'd be like, "Hey,
yeah, great idea."
Yeah, that's how my mom taught me to swim. Man, she just threw an inflatable blonde blow up doll in the pool with some catnip, and I was good to go.
Yeah, that was it. Yeah. My dad just threw me in the lake and got in the car and took off. But he had like in his defense, he had 6, 7 kids, so.
Yeah, he had some to spare, so
he had spares. Yeah,
it works out.
Yeah,
we do the math; it works out.
Yeah, I was told my twins when one of them did something stupid that it's okay. I got a spare.
Right.
And they looked at me and then they thought about it. Kind of cool.
True.
So
are you gonna get like your cat like a little wading pool, like a children's wading pool, like a little one of those small plastic ones?
I should do that for the yard this summer. God, he would love that. You are just full of great ideas. Cool.
Yeah, he might love that a lot. And then you could put like a little island of sand in the middle of it so he can stand on dry land if he wants to, right? But then yeah.
I could fill it with milk. That'd be even better.
That doesn't sound cost effective, and it would go bad in a day or two. But in the meantime, he'd love it.
Yeah, he might like it.
Yeah,
you're full of ideas.
Full of it. I am full of it. Ask anyone. Yeah. Ask Peter W. He'll tell you.
So I was quite taken with. There's only certain things we could say about it publicly, but I was quite taken with Rebecca and her brother talking on her channel the other day, but then she took it down, and I'm not sure she's ever going to put it back up. And the reason I was taken with it is he's one of those Christians. And now he was talking about how he does, he basically believes in science, and
Mm,
anything that science comes up with, he's going to believe, going back to the Big Bang, evolution, the whole shot, right?
mm,
And he talked about this cognitive dissonance between some of the biblical stories, like, Christ and the miracles and all of that. And I think what a lot of are you familiar with Christians like that don't have a rigid belief? They're not they're not going to die on the hill of did this miracle happen, or did that miracle happen?
yeah, absolutely. It's one of the many branches of the tree, right? But yeah, it's kind of an open theism, um, minimum doctrine, just basic concept, sort of. It'll all work out kind of thing with Christianity. So they say some of the same words and phrases, appeal to some of the same stories, but they're not married to it in terms of interpretation or anything except just very general ideas.
Yeah.
And that's fine. It doesn't bother me. It's still problematic, but if it's not causing them to say and do horrible things in our world, then unless they bring it to me, I let it go. But it it sounds to me like you're saying that her brother overly trusts science. Is that the ironic thing you're saying?
Not overly, no. He just trusts it like you and I do.
Oh,
He
okay, all right. Because
yeah,
I don't
he
believe
trusts.
everything science says.
Yeah, well, what is science and who's saying it, right? I mean, there are
Sure, sure.
individuals in science, right?
Sure,
But
okay. Yeah, I just wanna make sure that you're on the same page because I didn't see the
yeah,
stream. And
yeah,
somebody asked me, like, so many people have asked me if I've seen it, and my answer is always no because I've got people for that, right?
yeah,
If there's something that catches people attention, like, "Whoa, I can't believe this got said on her channel," they'll bring it, to one of the streams, and
yeah.
then I'll know, right? And then that makes it so much because I honestly don't wanna sit through 2 hours of Rebecca saying anything at all. Like,
Okay,
I just
fair.
don't.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, I actually don't listen to all of her streams. I do try to listen to some of them, but this one I was willing to listen to the whole thing, but because of interruptions, I was 58 minutes behind, and I missed the last 58 minutes of it. So, but
Mhm.
the other thing that I was really taken with is her relationship with her brother. I think she's older sister, and he's younger brother. Yeah, he's younger brother. Reminded me of my relationship with my younger sister, which is a
Mm.
real uh, strong family bond. I mean, even though I used to threaten to put her in the dryer when I babysat for her when I was a teenager, she still
Mm.
loves me, and we talk. We talk every day, and we have this, sort of back and forth, uh, kidding and poking at each other relationship, which is pretty incredible. And it's been an incredible lifelong relationship that I really like. So anyway,
Well, I'm really
I'm
glad that
pretty
you've got that.
yeah, and I'm pretty close with my other brothers and sisters. I don't talk to them every day, but we have just a real strong family web. And I think it may have been because we had such a tumultuous alcoholic upbringing. you know
Yeah.
I, I don't know. But other families have, crazy tumultuous upbringings, and they're not close. They don't talk to each other
Right.
once a decade, right? That sort of thing.
Yeah, that's actually pretty much how it worked in my family. But my siblings all ended up being religious fundamentalists, all of them. So I'm the oldest, and so I've got two brothers and two sisters, and technically from a couple different dads, but still brothers and sisters. And they're all I don't know, it's just so weird. Like, so my sister that's immediately younger than me, like the oldest sister, she's not allowed to talk to me. She married a ultra conservative fundamentalist guy,
Oh no.
and they, he's in the sciences. He helps research for cancer, so they make good money and they've got, a polished looking life, but they're super fundamentalist, and so um how he can help research cancer without understanding evolution, I have no freaking clue. Um,
Yeah.
but he somehow he does it. Like I don't know what he does exactly, but she's not allowed to talk to me. I haven't talked to her in several decades. Like I think we haven't talked since I was 20, and or right around there, and I'm in my early 50s now, so that's how long it's been. And I've
Wow.
tried, right? Like, but um, uh, I don't know. Like he's just they're super religious, like super Christian, and even with other Christians, they don't get along. You have to avoid saying anything that will offend their doctrinal narrative.
Right.
The and then maybe you can get along fine in the name of Jesus. But because
Yeah.
I'm an atheist, her husband is protecting her from the world to make sure she doesn't like lose the faith or get corrupted in her ways of thinking. So she, unless he dies for some reason, she's never going to talk to me for the rest of her life, just for that reason. So, and then my other siblings are no more functional than that. They've all got their own spin on it, but none of them like there's just no place for me in their life.
Yeah. The like with our company, me and my sons, I've been basically asked not to attend Christmas dinners and stuff like that.
Oh
All because
wow.
I, all because I used the phrase "dead hookers are my spirit animal" one time, like 10 years ago.
One time.
One time, and I run this, answers in atheism, and they're afraid that and it's a very big thing in my life to talk about atheism and the evolution battle and all that. And
Yeah.
these they have some pretty rigid Christians in the company, and I'm they're afraid that I'm going to offend them. Well, why are Christians offended by guys like me? I mean, why wouldn't I be offended by their Christianity as much as they're offended by my atheism? You know what I mean?
I do.
It seems like kind of one sided, and
Yeah,
it's
it's a
like,
double
why is
standard for
that?
sure. Entitled privilege. They need to check their white Jesus privilege is what they need to do.
Well, I think it's because they kind of know that they have an indefensible position underneath. Deep down, they know that their position is indefensible. So they're offended when somebody attacks it, or, comes out against it, because it's like they know they got nothing to stand on. They cannot
Right.
show me their God in any
Well,
way.
yeah, I mean, even if you look at the original story in Genesis, I mean, that's really what happened between the God character and Adam and Eve. He knew that his moral position was indefensible. And so basically the rule was don't you dare risk gaining access to dangerous knowledge. Don't you
Right.
dare outgrow this paradigm. Don't you dare think, learn, even explore outside of it. Because if you do, I'll be offended, right? Because that's dangerous knowledge that causes division between us. And so, as it relates to real people that are ultra religious, it's the same kind of thing. They not only do they not want to risk dangerous knowledge that could lead to dangerous growth and a shift in their perceptual paradigm, but if they think that you pose that risk, right, as somebody who might say something that somehow sneaks past their filter, their shield, and then or anybody's shield in the whole environment, right? And then you lead them astray with your dangerous wisdom,
Words.
dangerous knowledge, yeah,
Right.
words. Then you're gonna like stumble that person into hell, and they got to protect everybody. It's the same
Right.
kind of idea that Augustine argued for when he's like, you know what? I don't think capturing and torturing or capturing and killing heretics is enough. We should torture them into repentance as well because we have to put first the kingdom, right? We have to protect the community, and it's the same kind of thing where it's like, and Sam Harris made this same point. If somebody could say something that stumbles you out of their path and into their hell, that makes that person more dangerous than the child molester living next door. Because
Right.
yeah, because you're talking about an eternity in hell, right? So it's that kind of thing. It causes this extreme paranoia, this extreme division between people. But like it's that whole thing where Jesus came to bring a sword between family members, right? A sword of division. So mission accomplished. Yeah, you've divided family unnecessarily. And if Jesus were alive today, which we know he's not, I'm sure he'd be really proud of himself to all the division he's caused in this world today.
Yeah. Yeah, but back to the non-dogmatic Christian, basically, they have this this kind of like unstructured belief in Christianity, in Christ, and in sort of a mythos, or sort of a model of the world, or of the universe, right? But and if you press them, they couldn't tell you what the details are. If you ask them, did Christ really rise from the grave? They're like, well, Christ is a complicated. I think the guy that I'm talking about said Christ is a complicated subject, right? That's how he responded to that. He wasn't willing to commit to anything, right? So he has a loose model that he goes by, and he said something that really took me, and he said that he goes by finding God first, or finding faith first, and then going to the Bible, not the other way around, not getting your faith from the Bible. And that basically resonated with me, in that I have this whole Buddhist way of living where I take faith first and then rationality second. So faith is first for me. That I find this this deep structure in the organism that I am, in the universe that I am, and I just accept that. And I use my rational mind as more of a tool that I bring out and apply to subjects, right? But I mean, I don't have to walk around with a worldview or anything. I can just whistle all the way to the store. I can be happy without thinking about any of it at all, without having a model or a structure. And then so anyway, so these guys have a mythical model that's sort of loosely put together, and it gives them more substantive ideas about morality and how you should live and how you should behave, right? And I don't see anything wrong with that, per se.
In a general sense.
Yeah, because that's very much what, I mean, as long as they aren't bucking anything, and they're accepting change in the world and accepting the universe pretty much on the universe's terms, which is another way of saying accept God's will. If you accept God's will, it's the same as a naturalist accepting the fact that he is, that we're going to live and die, that we're in this universe. We don't have much control over anything other than our local area. I have control over my desktop. That's about it. I don't have control over other people, all that. So in that sense, there's a bridge between that deep, faithful Christianity and complete atheism and supernatural, or strict naturalism. With supernatural, fuck that. Strict naturalism, which is what I subscribe to. And I'm fascinated with that, because there are a lot of Christians, I think, that live like that. And I'm okay with those people.
Yeah, that they're a branch on that tree, and it's one of the better branches. It's interesting that tree has so many different branches, and that each branch bears a different kind of fruit. It's, so the fruit over here is palatable, right? There's even some benefits to it. But the fruit on the branch over there from the same damn tree, it's absolutely poison and will wreck you.
Right.
And it's fascinating to see that happen in real time.
Yeah, don't pick that fruit. Yeah, so but then in some sense, even strict atheists or hard atheists and strict naturalists like myself, we still live rationally by some sort of a model that is not entirely accurate. Okay, like I think I am Mike, and I think I have a family, and I come from, and I have this this whole social network. I know you and Scott, and so I have all these models, in my mind, and those models are not accurate. Those models guide us, basically, and that I know I know how to get a hold of you. I know how to talk to you. I kind of know who you are, and I have a model of who you are. but the model is not completely accurate. So we all live with models of some sort. And
Right there.
but then, go ahead.
I was going to say, yeah, absolutely. Models, they're a combination or a blend of assumption and illusion and facts, but they're blended
Your
in such a
best,
way where it becomes really hard to tell which parts are which.
yeah, your best knowledge of what
Yeah,
is true, or
an
what
approximation.
exists. Yeah, but then
Yeah.
a lot of times you'll have some idea about your relationship to another person, like I said, like a sibling or like a parent or a child or your spouse,
Hmm.
and that model is not accurate at all, and it
Right.
requires, it could require some work. And
Hmm.
then at some point, you completely give up that model. Now, when I was a very young man, I got married at 17 and I was crazy in love with Carol.
Hmm.
And we had two kind of rough years in the beginning because of financial things and drinking. And then we had two wonderful years in the middle and two really horrifying relationship ending years after that. So we had 6 years together. In the middle, what happened in that 2 years in the middle is we started taking psychedelics.
Mm.
And the first time I took a psychedelic, I looked at her, and rather than treating her like the model I had of her in my mind, I saw her, right? And I
Hmm.
experienced her and I fell in love with her all over again. And it was and we had two wonderful years by basically expanding our minds and getting rid of our crazy models and not, because in some sense when we have relationships with other people, we are relying on the model of that relationship that may not be accurate. And when you get into a marriage, for the first few months it's all rosy, and then you start taking them for granted. Hang on a second, I gotta yell at a kid.
Yeah, go yell at a kid. So I'll just add a little bit of, I don't know if people can hear me. Yep, I think they hear me.
I'm back,
A little bit of.
but go ahead. Go
Oh,
ahead.
okay. Yeah, I wasn't sure how long you were going to be gone. Go ahead. I'll let you
No, I just
continue
had
with
to
your
yell
point.
up the stairs.
Gotcha.
But you see what I mean? These models aren't always accurate, especially with interpersonal relationships. And we always have to
Yeah.
be humble about that. Just like the Christians should be humble about their model about the universe, right?
Including the
I mean,
model of God, it works the same way. If
yeah,
if we grant, for the sake of argument, that there is this super entity, self-aware, sentient, has a personal agenda, um, there's only one of them, it created the universe, blah 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 blah. We grant all of it. It still works the same in terms of there's a going to be a big difference, in fact a world of difference, a universe of difference between what somebody perceives as that entity, right, the entity that they know, the entity that lives within their mind, versus what the entity externally is, like objectively is. And they've got no real way of knowing, even if we grant it all, where the assumptions and illusions end and the factual matter of who that person is begins. They've got no way to really gauge that. It's the same kind of problem with human relationships.
right,
And this is true of deep relationships and shallow relationships. If somebody decides, somebody who barely knows you hates you, they hate the idea of you, right? They hate the impression that they've got and this idea they built around the impression. If somebody who barely knows you thinks you're awesome, it's the same thing except on the positive end. They build
right,
this idea of you around um, very small amount of data, and now they think they know who you are, and in a good way this time. But in both cases, it's something that their mind is automatically generating using very little real world data. And it's just good to be mindfully aware of it. We're not saying that this makes you a bad person or a good person. It's just to be good to be aware of the fact that the human mind works that way. And this is
yeah,
why I've said before, like, if there is a God, even if we grant a Christian themed God, no two people have ever even mentioned the same God, because in this sense of the word, in this sense of the concept,
it's
because
personal.
Yeah,
Yeah.
their idea, the constructed, the holographic being which lives within their mind, is a representation of an external being which they believe to exist, and it's built with elements of the way that their mind already works, the way that their brain associates words and concepts, the way that those are tied to their emotions, and in ways that they may be aware of and ways that they aren't aware of. And so, their life experiences, the way their mind works, it fills in the gaps, and it gives this conceptualized entity life. It lets it live and breathe within the mind. And so, whether that's our spouse or our sibling or our parent or a super being in the sky, which may or may not exist, even if it does, the same thing's going to be happening. There's going to be a big difference between, like, who they know themselves to be, versus who we know them as. It's technically two different beings, right?
Yeah, so there's a skepticism that we need to apply to everything it is that we know. But then when it comes to the body of science, which you get to know by studying science for a long time, if you like, the body of science is so large, you study it for a very, very long time. And what you need to do with both relationships, religion, and science is every now and then pull your model down off the shelf, dust it off, and take a look at it. And
Mm.
ask yourself, does this piece work? Does that piece work? Does that piece work? If you choose, okay, with your worldview, for a lot of people, maybe you shouldn't bother doing that because you're not going to figure anything out anyway. But with science, you can do that. So the point I'm trying to make is you want to apply skepticism to everything, but there's a point where skepticism blends into being a conspiracy theorist where you don't believe anything. It's like, oh, they made up atoms, and stuff like that.
Right.
Just and so I guess that, of course, I'm puffing my own chest out here and saying, oh, I'm a scientist, right? I believe everything, is rooted in what we know about the universe scientifically. And of course, I'm going to choose that view.
Mm.
But, every now and then I have to sit down and say, why do I feel that way?
Right.
Why do I think that? And I have to pull out the details.
Right. So when I think back, go ahead.
No, I whatever it was, it trailed off as soon as I said whatever I said. Go ahead.
Fair. When I think back to my earliest experiences with science, it was as a toddler. I was already doing scientific experimentations as a toddler. The moment I was able to crawl around on the floor, I began science. Everything got put in my mouth, and I would repeat these experiences every time I had an opportunity, these experiments, to see how things tasted, how they felt, and whether or not they were going to hurt me. like,
Right.
Ouch, right? This is the beginning of this. These are the true roots of science. If somebody wants to trace it back to something else and they're just wrong, that's the true root of science, because you keep repeating an experience to see what happens, and then you learn from it. Oh, look, every single time I do this with an M&M, right, this is how the experience goes. But if it's, um, something from the cat box, it's going to be a completely different experience.
Different experience. Yeah, I always say that my very first science experiment was when I was 1 month old, poking myself in the eye by flailing my arms around, right?
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, babies flail their arms around and they poke themselves in the eye and I don't want to do that anymore. And that's kind of where we start building this model of the world.
Mm-hmm.
And I have been reading a book called Thinking with Diagrams. It's about a subject called semiotics, which was made famous and made rigid by a man named Charles Sanders Peirce back in around 1900. And have you heard of biosemiotics? The creationists like to talk about it because it has to do with information, and they love that stuff. But anyway, semiotics is basically a relationship between signs or parts of the model the reality, whatever it refers to, and an interpretant. So it's a three-way relationship, and we will see bear tracks in the woods, and that is the sign, and we interpret that to mean that there was a bear there, right? So, but they go crazy and they apply this to almost all human knowledge. Everything that we know is a sign, and then the biosemiotics people are extending that into biology, where they're saying you have a cell, which is the interpretant, and it's got something on its membrane. It gets a signal, and then it goes ahead and does something. So they build that three-way relationship, and that's what biosemiotics is all about. And there's a bunch of modern researchers and philosophers that are kind of going crazy with that field. But anyway, so it's all about models.
How's that useful to fundamentalists?
Well, to a fundamentalist, they love it because they say there has to be an interpretant, which they take to be an intelligence, right? That there has to be an intelligent interpreter, that somebody has to know how to design DNA so that it turns into the right protein, right? So they love it because they think it brings the mind into everything. That nothing in the universe can exist without the mind of God, that sort of thing. So that's why they like it.
I gotcha. Yeah, I should have seen that coming.
Yeah, but how that applies to our conversation here is that model is something that we like. If you were to draw what you think you are, or what your personality or your relationship was, you'd start drawing on paper. You draw some circles, and then you say, "Oh, okay, I got my sister and I got me," and then you draw a line between you, and you would start to characterize that line. So then you would get something from your diagram, and that's what this book is all about: is the back and forth between diagramming and understanding and learning. And anyway, you come up with the details of the model, and at some point you can say, "Well, that part of the model." I mean, that's the way I've been thinking, but that doesn't make any sense. And because you wrote or drew the diagram out, now you can see what you were doing. And that all becomes really important in understanding our position in the universe, I think. So.
Sure, absolutely. That makes sense to me. To build your model with that, to build your perceptions and understandings from there. Absolutely. So, and this speaks directly to something like what Peter W. might ask about. How do you know anything? Like, how do you learn? How do you gather? How can you justify any confidence in the world? Go ahead.
There's a difference between knowing something and being 100% absolutely godlike certain of it, right? I mean, I know that there's a coffee cup in front of me. I know that this coffee cup is red and it has a Hello Kitty insignia on it, right? I know these things. And if you look at it, there are a lot of reasons why I know that. I mean, there are reasons going back to when, all the way back to when, I was a zygote and just fertilized zygote, right? That built this knowledge. And those things are built on such a web of interrelated facts and knowledge that you can lean on them and trust them, right? And that's how you know. But can you know 100% certain that you're not a brain in a vat, or you're not a simulation, or solipsism isn't true? I mean, no, you can't know anything for 100% certainty.
That's true. And religion doesn't solve that problem. It pretends to, but it doesn't solve the problem.
Yeah. They are really into certainty.
Right. They seem to need certainty, like emotionally, like concrete ideas, absolute certainty.
That makes them assholes.
Yeah, it does. And it's one of the reasons I'm so glad I don't have certainty.
Yeah.
Right. I have degrees of confidence. And so when I say that I know a thing, it's an approximation. It's a statement of practical reference. I have good confidence to believe that we're having a conversation right now, or that there's a hard surface in front of me. And I draw from memories of interacting with that and similar surfaces to build this idea of the universe that I live in and the world and the room that I sit in, right? Now, I could be misinterpreting all of it, right? But at least I'm misinterpreting it in a consistent way that allows me to functionally navigate the world that I'm in. And if I'm wrong about
That's
all of this, go ahead.
that's the key. That's the key to knowledge. That it is in a consistent way. For instance, okay, if we are brains in a vat, and the brain in a vat simulation has me as a cup here, a model of a cup, and a model of red, whatever it is that makes me perceive red, right? I mean, if that is a reality, I can still pick the cup up in the simulation and it works. It is consistent. Therefore, I know that there's a cup here. It doesn't matter if there's some deeper reality beyond that, right? Like a simulation. It doesn't fucking matter. So if you are a brain in a vat simulation, then that is reality. That's just the same as any other kind of version of reality that you can come up with.
Right. I'm able to navigate dreamscapes. When I have a dream, I'm able to navigate those social situations and those environments in such a way that is satisfying and generates a narrative that my brain can process and make sense of and examine, right? And when I wake up, maybe that dream has some special meaning to me, right? Maybe emotionally or maybe not ideologically, but idealized, like a concept that maybe I dreamed about inspires me when I wake up, right? It doesn't matter that it was just a dream. I had a frame of reference within the dream that gave me an empowerment to be able to navigate and understand the context of that perceptual experience, no matter what it was.
Yeah.
Sorry, rant over. That's just where I'm at about it. When you get these
thinking about that, you experience dreams too.
Yeah.
And it's the other thing that I've been pretty taken with lately, and it's all part of the same thing, is that I have found all of these pieces of me. Like I've been able to take the pieces of me, the models that I have constructed of my interpersonal relationships and my relationship with myself. I've been able to sort of pluck them out of my brain, put them on a diagram or on a piece of paper or on the table or just in my consciousness, right? And I've been able to start questioning all those things and start saying, well, is that serving me? Is it realistic or is it not? And these are deeper things that I've had sort of lucid dreaming experiences where that has become really clear. I mean, it's just, I don't want to say too much about my lucid dreaming, but I have had some really vivid, bizarre, and wild lucid dreaming experiences of late. And I'm sort of like taking my psyche apart and looking at the pieces, and I call it pieces of me. And then when I wonder, what is me? What is left after I take all these pieces out and put them out in front of me? Where's the me in all of that, right? And I kind of realized that the me is kind of an illusion. And the real thing that's happening here is I'm an organism breathing, ingesting, and running along through life. And I know enough about this model of reality, or how this whole reality works, that I know it ain't gonna last forever, for one thing. And I'm just like a flower blooming in the moment, and that's all there is to it. There is no model of me. All these pieces of me are things that that my cognitive abilities have constructed over a lifetime. And I don't care how much of that changes. I'm just examining and deciding what I like and what I don't like.
Yeah,
and for the
as a ship of Theseus, you don't mind any given panel being replaced gradually over time.
Right. Yeah. And because it is all the time anyway. I mean, like, I'm losing weight. Oh my God, I'm disappearing. The me, I lost a pound of meanness last week. It's like, oh
Sure, like, how do
no,
you define yourself? Sure.
I'm dying. I'm
Well,
disappearing. Right? Yeah, and it's just, it becomes very comforting. And the thing is that I can always resort to just being, shut my mind off, quit thinking about shit. If I have to hum a Buddhist, chant or whatever, or throw some music on, no matter how upset I am about something, I can always just collapse into the moment and be the organism I am. And I find total peace and relaxation.
mm-hmm.
And in a lot of ways, I'm leaning back into the chair or into the hammock of life and just saying, okay, I'm cool. I'm relaxed. Just taking me 72 fucking years to, to feel relaxed in my own skin, in my own life,
Wow.
And
Wow.
yeah. Well, it's been a journey. I guess I started out when I was 15 with the whole Buddhism thing, and that's where I really wanted to live as a mystic, right? Because I had this experience when I was 15. And I wanted to get back to that, and I wanted to get back to it all my life. And I've done a lot to get there in the last 16 years of being sober, but I have another bit of my journey that I'm entering into. So, and anyway, and Rebecca's brother resonated with that for some reason, and I really like the man, and would love to have a conversation.
Sorry, that's a rumor I heard from somewhere else.
Okay. Yeah, we can't talk about this stuff.
Yeah, I can't talk about that.
And anyway, yeah, I don't know. Those are the things that have been rolling around in my head while I'm reading the book.
I'm really sorry I missed that stream. Like I said, I don't like watching Rebecca's streams. I just feel like
some of them bother me.
She has a limited frame of reference for how she looks at life, a very small lens, a small warped lens, and it only bends one way. And she won't rotate it, she won't flip it, she won't replace it, she won't smooth it over, she won't like set it down for a moment and pick up ears to kind of look through it to see how things look. She just lacks that ability or lacks that motivation. I don't know. She just can't or won't. And with that being the case, you can pretty much predict anything she'll say to anything you say. Like, it's almost like she's an AI. Like, as long as you already know what her database is, like what her parameters are, you could just predict what she's going to say. And I'm okay with that. But that means that any conversation we have with her is not going to be productive, right? There's just, you might be growing and examining from the experience of a discussion with her, but she's not, right? You're thinking about the implications or ramifications of what she says, especially as it relates to what you're saying or where you're coming from. She's not thinking about any of that shit. It's just warm fuzzies. Dad in sky loves me. Jesus is the magic word that gets you to heaven. There's just not a whole lot of depth there.
Yeah.
So
yeah, she dismisses me with, well, thank you for your perspective. Which is what my son suggested. I asked him, how the fuck am I going to deal with this creationist, like Sal Cordova? And he said, just basically say, well, that's an interesting conclusion, which is sort of dismissive, right? It's like, it's interesting that you came up with that as your conclusion. Thank you for your perspective. In other words, you fucking idiot.
Right. And there's a good chance when she does that she doesn't even know what perspective you just offered. She didn't listen. She just whatever you just said, thanks for saying it. Shut up. Let's move on. Right? It's just
Jay didn't like the brother. I thought the brother was great. He lacked substance necessary to make me feel like he's worth engaging with. I love people who lack substance, I guess.
They're in
Anyway,
kind of a flow. Yeah, they're because at least then they're in kind of a flow state, right? Like they're not. I don't know. You can kind of work with them. You can kind of have some kind of exchange with them. Whereas Rebecca, you can't have a real exchange with her. It's not a real conversation.
yeah.
So, but I get Hunter Biden's laptop's point as well. I didn't see the stream, but I'm getting the gist of it. That basically, what you really want is something substantive to stick your teeth in. You want them to have some clarified ideas for you to examine and kind of pull apart and put back together and talk about. But if they're so wishy-washy, if they're so non-committal and everything's general, then they're not going to be offensive, right? And maybe they're listening and maybe they're understanding, but
Right.
they're probably not going to grow from it because they're evasive to specifics, right? So they don't want to grab onto any, work with any, toy with any, play with any. Um, what are you going to do with that conversation either? So I get why you like that, because it's an agreeable person who is in a flow state. But I get why Jay doesn't like it either, because we're talking about
Yeah.
somebody who's not taking a position on anything that substantive that we can have a real deep conversation about. So
Well,
I see it both ways.
if he were just coming off that way, if he was just putting himself out that way, and in the background he has all these real opinions that he's not sharing with us, right? That I would not like, right? That I would call flim flam or flimsy, basically. But if he's truly a person that just doesn't question that stuff, he just lives his life without questioning it, then that is the kind of person I would say has faith. Basically, that's having faith. You don't need to die on every fucking hill. You don't need to be right about everything. You can live your life without even being, all you got to be right about is, that the floor is solid and, that you're walking carefully and all that. I mean, you don't need any of that other shit. And there are, and that is a fair way to live. That's a fair way to live for a person. And I'm willing to basically extend my atheist radicalism to that kind of a person and say, hey, that's okay. I do not have a problem with you at all. Go on your way, And but it's, because it's a way of peace, sort of. It's, a way of not disturbing the boughs in the woods when you walk through it, that sort of thing.
Sure. I mean, that's what I like about the Native American indigenous spiritual people.
Yeah.
I don't have to agree with everything that they're saying, but to appreciate that it's functional benefit and that they're not hurting anybody.
Yeah. When I used to hunt deer in the North Woods, I brought a gun. I never hurt any deer. I didn't believe in hurting deer. I just like going hunting. I used to walk through the woods in such a way that I would not move any branch, bending and contorting and moving around so that you never intercepted a branch to walk through the brush. I mean, there are some places where obviously you can't do that, but there are paths where you can just basically walk through the woods without disturbing anything. And then I learned how to put my feet down in such a way that I didn't, had minimal disturbance of the floor, so that I made no noise at all. And I would see deer. And I let them go, because I let them go mostly because I didn't want to drag those fuckers out of the woods. It's like, fuck,
you could have compromised between the two and went in there with a paint gun. That way you could still hunt, know that you hit something, and they learn from it. They're like, you know what? I didn't like getting hit with that, and then they're going to be better equipped to resist the actual hunters later. So you've taught them a valuable lesson, but you still got the experience of hunting.
Yeah, but then if a big old black bear came up and decided to tear my ass apart, and all I had is a paint gun, I'd feel pretty fucking dumb.
Yeah, if you're going to be anywhere where bears are at, you definitely want to bring somebody and bring a big gun that you keep ready, right? A real gun you keep ready in case you need it.
Yeah, a real gun. It's always good to have a real gun. Anyway, I wanted to comment. Peter W. says, I think it's impossible for something to come from nothing to start. Nobody fucking thinks that.
Nobody.
Nobody even knows what nothing is. I mean, nothing is like a concept that we have about containers that we learned from the world, because we can have a container full of M&Ms and we can have another one where there are no M&Ms, and we say, oh, there's nothing in there. But actually, there's a lot of stuff in there anyway. And the Big Bang is the same thing. Nobody is saying it came from nothing. And I wish they would just knock that shit off.
Right. Well, here's the thing. I mean, they were already saying this before, and this is the frustration that I have with Lawrence Krauss. Because if you listen to what the full version of what he says, nothing isn't nothing. Nothing is something. It's virtual particles in a quantum vacuum.
Yeah.
Right. But they just hear nothing and they go, haha. Right.
Yeah.
Or they clip it, or they clip him saying, there's a clip that's been going around, and like on Brett Kane's channel, for example, where Dawkins asked Lawrence Krauss, do you mean literally nothing? And then Lawrence Krauss says literally nothing, and then they end the clip. But if you play the whole conversation, you discover there's something else going on there. They just like to clip, it's quote mining, right?
Yeah.
Lawrence Krauss, if you've caught some of his other discussions, he explains this was meant to be provocative. It is just a hypothesis. It's not even a scientific theory, because it can't rise to that level because you can't test it. You can't. And so it's just a hypothesis that is meant to be provocative, because he wants a new generation of young scientists to feel challenged and inspired by the idea. He wants them to enter the arena to prove him wrong. He wants them to enter the arena to advance that field of science. He wants to provoke these minds. That's it. He's not saying that he's sure that there was that it all began with a with the virtual particles in the quantum field. He's not even saying he's sure about that. They're not sure. If you ask any reputable scientists with relevant credentials, they'll tell you, we know nothing about anything prior to rapid expansion. We know nothing, right? Was that an absolute beginning of all space, matter, and time? Probably not, but we don't know for sure, right? We don't know anything. And so
we don't even know what the overall geometry of the universe is.
Yeah, we don't even know how big it is. It could be a lot bigger than we think it is.
Yeah. Yep. So Harley's Quinn says, but ironically, I bet Peter W. believes in libertarian free will, so his free thoughts come from nothing. So
yes, that is a brilliant point. In fact, that point is so brilliant, it's deeper than I think that most people are going to realize.
It is. It is.
Because that's what it requires. Libertarian free will requires a steady flowing stream of absolute events coming from absolutely no cause.
Yeah.
And then it requires that you take personal free-willed credit for thoughts which you just admitted had no cause and therefore are random. You can't have it both ways. If your thoughts don't have a cause, then they're random. If they do, then they're determined. You don't have a third option there. There isn't one logically, right? So libertarian free will is an appeal to magic. It is an appeal to something from nothing. And in the meantime, somebody else pointed out in chat, literally that's what Christians believe, that because their God exists independent of time and space and matter and is completely outside the realm of all this, then this universe came from nothing. This universe came from nothing, and their God is nothing, but the universe came from nothing, just popped into existence. And I'm like,
that's
okay.
That's a misuse of our understanding of our own minds. I call it point source spirit mind, and I call it spirit mind because they believe it comes from nowhere. It comes from nothing. It just your mind is something that just operates with nothing pushing the gears. Nothing happening, right? It's just pure spirit. And I call it point source because, and unfortunately, most atheists fall victim of the point source part. Most people do. They think that our mind is some singular thing, that it's one thing, that it occupies a point in space and time. And that is our mind, and that whatever, and they say it emerges from our biological brain. They'll say it basically. What is the other word? I always forget that one. Basically, it's epiphenomenal. It's on top of or emerges from the biology, but there is no fucking point mind, and your mind doesn't work that way. Your mind is a whole lot of interrelationships with the world around you all at once. And it also doesn't happen in an instant. You don't have any instantaneous thought. Your thoughts are always like a wide brush across time. So that your experience of consciousness is like a wide brush moving through time, and you're accumulating bits of time and bringing them, crossing them over and bringing them up, and you're interrelating with the universe. Okay.
Absolutely.
And as soon as you understand that, the hard problem of consciousness goes away. There is no hard problem of consciousness. Well,
it doesn't mean we completely understand consciousness, but
we do. We do actually.
I would love to hear that.
Well, we do, but we don't know that we do. You see, we know enough neuroscience now that we completely understand consciousness. But what we don't do, the hard problem of consciousness is basically that our intuition and the way we think is incapable of understanding that we fucking know what it is already, that we already know what it is. It is your brain, your organism in the world. That is consciousness. It's you being a biological bit of goo on the dust ball that is the world. Moving through time, that is consciousness. But intuitively, we think, oh, how could that be? And we try to take it apart. The thing is, what it all rests on is how do we apprehend our own consciousness, right? So you think that you know what it is to be conscious, or that you can apprehend it, that you can observe your own consciousness. You can't observe your own consciousness any more than you can observe your eyeball with your eyeball. Okay, you need a mirror. So basically, we have no idea what the fuck we're talking about when we say we're conscious, because we can't observe our own consciousness. All we're doing is moving on and having a new kind of experience. And we think, oh, like I'm observing my consciousness of this little blue dot that says new on my screen right now, right? But actually what I'm doing is remembering it from a few microseconds ago, or 200 milliseconds ago. And kind of like, and it's conceptual, and all these little pieces are there all at once. And I think I'm observing my consciousness, but I'm not. Your consciousness in the moment is exactly the same as it will be when you are dead. There is no consciousness in the moment. It's always this broad brush. And when you start understanding that about the human mind and how it works, you realize that we already know all the fucking parts. You know, we know the whole routine from cortex to the thalamus to the basal ganglia, which is this big mess at to the brainstem, and we know what is happening when we perceive something. We've observed it all scientifically, you know, with machines, and we'll say, oh God, where is consciousness in that thing? How does consciousness emerge from that? Well, the answer is it doesn't fucking emerge. There kind of is no such thing. The thing you're trying to intuit or grasp or look for doesn't exist anyway. So stop worrying about it.
I hear what you're saying, but I think I'm going to need a pretty good batch of drugs before I can catch up with you.
Okay.
I just think that the rigidity of my cognitive processes aren't able to completely flow with what you're saying.
I started on that journey in 2008, the night that Richard Dawkins and P.Z. Myers were attending the movie Expelled at the Mall of America, 5 miles from me. And I was in Columbus, Ohio, quite a few hundred miles away. And my son texted me about the debacle where they threw P.Z. Myers out, but they forgot to throw Richard Dawkins out of the movie, out of the premiere. Are you familiar with the movie Expelled?
No.
Okay. Anyway, so my son texted me and said, PZ Myers is at the Mall of America right now, and Richard Dawkins is inside watching the premiere of Ben Stein's movie Expelled, which is all about how all these scientists got fired for being creationists, for not believing in evolution, right?
Oh my gosh.
Ben Stein was the guy in Ferris
Sure, I
Bueller's
know who
Day
he is.
Off. Yeah,
Mm-hmm.
anyway, he's a real fuckhead. He's a real fuckhead, and he did this
Sure is.
documentary. Anyway, they had the movie premiere at the Mall of America. So my son texted me this, and as soon as and he told me that Richard Dawkins had a forum, and I signed onto the forum, and that was where I posted my first really stupid idea about consciousness. And since then, I have educated myself in neuroscience and philosophy of the mind. And so, anyway, what I'm telling you is it took me 15 years to get here. So, to get to that intuition that I have.
Well, I'm not there yet, but I appreciate you sharing it with me.
Yeah, drugs will help though, but neuroscience also went into the, whichever way you choose to roll, But
yeah. Oh, Hive Science is here. So Bree.
Hey, Bree.
So some people with Skeptic Haven were talking about you earlier, private chat, talking about how brilliant you are, Bree. So
yes.
So I'd like to let you know I stumbled into some gossip about you, and it was all good.
Yeah, should I open the stream up?
It's-
I thought Scott would join us, but he hasn't been feeling good. He's got some sinus things going on.
So Scott, for sinus things, and it may not work for you, but I used to have sinus migraines all the time. It's ever since age 11 through age 41. And then I discovered these battery powered machines for nasal rinse. And you have to use distilled water, warm it up a bit, use special packets of like the stuff that goes in it. It was a miracle cure. I haven't had a major sinus event since. And it's been 10 years or so.
I was thinking of getting an air purifying machine because I'm pretty sure a lot of the sniffles and sneezing I get are because of these fucking cats and this huge forest that's in my backyard, which is a really wet forest. It's almost like a fucking rainforest full of fungus and whatever. So, but I think if I purified the air, I'd have less sinus problems. I just put the link for the stream out there in case Bree wants to join us or somebody else. So okay, awesome. somebody philosopher. Let's see the problem. Okay, stupid monkey philosophy. Where are we here? Got my cursor slow, so I'm having trouble. Okay, the problem is that if we did not have a concept of consciousness, we would have no basis of knowledge or experience. Thus, the whole conversation would be literal gibberish. I don't think so. Our understanding of consciousness to us is kind of like saying God. Each of us has our own experience of what it is to be us, to be this person. I bet my muscles feel a whole lot different than yours. And I have this whole, there's a researcher named Ledoux, and he talked about
what did he Ledoux?
He did. He talked about the emotional milieu, basically this whole charge of emotional like feelings that we have coming from our body, and then you add to that all of the feelings of proprioception, where your limbs are, where your muscles are, that like your stomach may feel just a little upset. That's going to affect your consciousness. All of these things all coalesce into the experience.
Oh, sure.
And everybody has a different experience. Everybody is having it. There's no pure consciousness that we can find that you could pick out.
Yeah, I'm not even sure what pure consciousness would mean, but I mean, I sort of understand what you're saying, and I completely understand what Monkey was saying. But Carol the Atheist says they have an overactive amygdala.
Yep.
So does that mean that's interesting? Because here's the thing: whether or not you lean left or right politically, is 70% predictive by the size of your amygdala. There is an actual structural difference between a liberal brain and a conservative brain. 70% of people with a particular brain structure will, it's just predictive in that way, right? And then how you were raised is like another 70% predictive. If you combine them, it's like well over 90% predictive as to whether or not you'll end up being left or right. So usually, I'm a little bit surprised when I hear somebody who leans left, like in terms of their value systems or their cultural paradigm, um, if they have a conservative brain. But it happens, right? Like I guess 30% of the time it happens. So um, so that just makes a person, that's a struggle, right? If someone has an enlarged amygdala, and I don't know if Carol is being serious or funny, but if someone has an enlarged amygdala, it makes them more prone to fear.
Yeah.
And it also makes it to where they're actually more prone to disgust from visual imagery or the sight of like anything disgusting. Like they have a stronger visceral response to things that are
Yep.
disgusting.
Stronger limbic response, basically.
Yeah.
Hey, Dave. Captive Desk is here.
Hey, Mike. Hi,
Hey,
James.
Hey there.
Hey, I had to pop on, James. You got to see Expelled.
Yeah, you gotta watch that piece of shit.
You gotta get caught up. You have to see that piece of garbage.
All right, I will see that piece of garbage. Where can I see that at? I wonder. I have to look it up.
Oh, it's all over YouTube.
Yeah, you can find it on YouTube. So I keep trying to highlight chats and I keep highlighting the wrong chat. Anyway.
Yeah.
Basically, Expelled is just this absolute piece of garbage. I went to see it not long. I came home from Columbus about 2 weeks later, and they had released it at the Mall of America, and I went to the same theater where Dawkins and P.Z. Myers had seen it. And I had to leave halfway through because the Christians, like I was embedded in a 99% Christian audience that was creationist, and they were oohing and eyeing and laughing at certain points. And I looked over at them and they all had these shiny faces and they were all excited about what Ben Stein, how he was slamming Richard Dawkins and all this stuff. And all of a sudden I got this like image of myself being hunted with people with pitchforks and torches, and I ran out of the theater because I was afraid.
And the thing was, I thought Ben Stein was halfway intelligent. You know, he was on that game show and everything, you know, with all the trivia stuff and
win Ben Stein's money.
Okay, you know, dudes, you know, and then he did that movie, and I'm like, you know, I think Jay and others have talked about it. You know what I mean? You're having a perfectly rational discussion with somebody, and then the religion kicks in, and then all of a sudden they start talking all this nonsense.
Yeah,
and you're like, what happened?
Yeah,
right.
Yeah, it was a buzzkill. You know, I thought, yeah, Ben's a smart guy. You know, and then he started talking that stuff on the Expelled thing, and I'm like, dude, you know, it's like Ben Carson. If I was going to have another head removed from my body, yes, I would call maybe Ben Carson. But on anything else, you know, it's like it gets scary when they start talking about stuff, and it's just you're like, whoa, you know, how can you be so brilliant about something? You know what I mean? And then turn around and talk nonsense, and it's mind blowing.
Creationism creationism makes you a box of rocks. I mean, come on, face it. To put a point on it, basically, it just fucks you up. I mean, if you use like literal Bible stories to define your worldview, there's something fucking wrong. You're not going to come up with anything.
I don't have an answer for that.
Shut up, Siri.
She's right, though.
Well, yeah, Ben Carson. The pyramids were built by Joseph to store grain in, and it's like, you know, it's like, I mean, the pyramids are almost solid. You know what I mean? Yeah. There's no storage in there. It's like, it doesn't even make any sense at all. It's not built like a silo or anything. And when they say these things, and you're like,
really safe there.
You were just on the cover of every magazine in the world for separating Siamese twins, connected at the head. And then you turn around and say pyramids are for storing grain in. And it's just, whoa.
You lose all credibility.
Yeah.
Hi, Jay.
It's crazy.
How you doing?
Hey, Jay.
I'm all right. Can you guys hear me?
Yeah.
Yep.
Great. Thanks for having me on. Yeah, I agree with you guys. I think a lot of it speaks to the way people use education. Like they see it as a means to an end, and by end I mean ends, right? So, you know, you go to college to make money, not necessarily to become a more well-rounded, you know, intellectual citizen or whatever. So I think you see a lot of people, they get rich, but they're still stupid.
Yeah.
The thing I wanted to mention, though, I called in to ask about Peter W. because I've been thinking myself about like blocking Peter W. And I think I blocked Jerome Robinson yesterday or something like that. And this immediate like sense of wellness and relief washed over me because I feel like a lot of these people are like they're just trolls and there's this thing that goes on in this, you know, we all know about the hate watching, right? But it just bothers me that I feel like there's these people in our community, for lack of a better way to put it, who don't really have any intention on meeting and observing the community standard, even with regards to something as simple as, you know, honestly reflecting our differences of opinion.
Yeah.
Yeah, so it just bothers me that these people keep hijacking our shows.
Yeah, unfortunately, Peter W. is the only Christian representative I have on my channel. If I blocked him, so I need his perspective to kind of, if nothing else, to get Cat stirred up or get Andrew Cummings stirred up.
Sure. And there's some times where he says something in chat I really want to engage with, but it would take us off topic, and so I don't.
Yeah.
But I think he deliberately does that. Like it's just
sometimes I think he does. In the meantime, Jay, the only like request I would make is from now on when we go to ban somebody that's not playing well with others, like with the theme of the show, I think we should have like some kind of like exorcism Latin phrasing that we do and like a little ritual that we do. That,
yeah, to like banish them to the nether realm or something. Yeah. And people in the chat mentioned that isn't Jerome an atheist? The point isn't the belief system. The point is a troll. And at some point it gets YouTube's a weird place where I think it's really toxic, right? And what I realize is there's like this toxic vibe in these spaces, and a lot of it is you know, kind of boosted by people who watch you, and they're not really here to support you. They're really there to sort of gaslight you, to make offbeat comments, to poke holes at you. And for me, it's just getting a little irritating. And I've kind of realized that I don't know that I want that around, because number one, I feel like we've engaged with the other side, but those particular people, the engagement isn't going anywhere. And then I also feel like when new people come in, it's doing a little bit too much in the conversation, where I would rather the community just be a safe space for, you know, the people that are there to support what's going on the stream. I just felt like I was getting a little bit too much of the chat dedicated to addressing these type of personalities. So I'm really just asking questions about how you guys see these things, because this is new for me, because I've been previously just like letting it go. And I think, to be honest with you, it would have been something I'd be dealing with indefinitely. And just in the last week or so myself, I've just been like, nope, I'm banning these people. And to be honest, what led to it really was Peter W. and some others are quite abusive to me in other channels, right? Okay. So Mike, imagine if you went on a debate with Sal or something, right, on Modern Day Debates or something. Like Peter W. be talking all types of nonsense to you, right? And then when he wants to just watch your channel like he's part of the gang somehow. And I'm like, nah, you don't get to see me in the streets, call me out my name, disrespect me the entire time, and then you want to come act like you're buddy part of our community. So now I'm like, nah, I'm done with that.
Yeah, but
well, Peter and I have never had any personal issues or anything like that. I've talked to him in chats for quite a while now on a lot of different channels and everything, and so I don't take it personal as long as he doesn't go personal. So he and I talk. So that's how it is.
It's like letting Otangelo. Otangelo, I mean, he's a fucking troll and a preacher, right? But letting him in, my chat people have fun with him. And so, what's going on in chat doesn't necessarily have to be. I mean, I won't normally let Otangelo onto my streams because to keep him in chat, he can fucking drone on all he wants. But having him in a stream is a different matter, right? Because I've gotten everything I need out of Otangelo. So I view my chat differently, Jay, and
sure.
And I know that the atheists have fun with these guys when they come in. So let them have fun over there, and the other thing is that every now and then they will say something that does allow me to illuminate something different, a new idea, right? I come up with a new idea based on what they say. And I mean, I don't want just a monoculture, I mean,
sure.
I wish more Christians would come over here and fuck with us, It's just, I don't know. But everybody runs their own channel the way they want to.
Yeah. And Peter says he disagrees with me. Nope. Not gonna allow the lies. Right. Peter personally insulted me. I'm not
just now.
That's different.
No, that's in the past. Like he's personally insulted me. That's what this is about. Right. When I was on Richard Madsen, he started with the personal insults, and typically does. So nope.
Yeah, well,
I don't. Everybody has to respond to it the way I do, but I'm not gonna let him come here and play this game where he acts like, oh no, it's just because we have disagreements. No. And also, here's the thing too. That's what I mean about being trolled, right? For Peter W. to come up here, even like you said today, I just find it, he's just incredulous about the idea that the universe comes from something. He knew when he said that's not the position, right? And it's like, how many of these debates have they sat through where this has been explained time and time again?
Right.
This is what I mean. Like, I'm not giving him the benefit of the doubt of this. He knew when he said that is not our position. And so it's like, that's not a good faith conversation. It's not me saying, oh, Mike, what do you think about X, Y, and Z? You tell me. From now on, I take that in the position. With Peter W., we're starting from zero every single time because he's going to insist on misrepresenting the entire conversation. So it's all in one ear, out the other. And I'm just like, ew, like, I don't know. James, you've talked a little bit about how at some point, I just think we're dealing with a little bit of the short bus mentality, to put it that way. But at some point, I'm not going to be bullied by the people on the short bus.
Yeah. If I have somebody that's insulting my guests or my regulars, I will bounce its ass out. I don't allow that.
I've got a captive desk persona, so the captive desk is open to anybody and any views, as long as it's civil. But yeah, there's no reason. If you're just going to call names, we can go on Twitter and call names.
Yeah, and Ox has been disrespectful as shit to me too. But this is the type of like, I'm gonna get out of here because I could already tell I'm gonna be gaslit, but gotta have thick skin dude deal or disconnect. No, it's somebody who was trying to call me out on shit on Richard Madsen. It was incredibly disrespectful and nasty, even to the point that Kat had to call it up. And so it's no surprise that I come on to call out Peter W. And here comes Ox on the same thing. Ox, see, the thing is, I didn't even know this person before the other day. What happened was I'm on Richard Madsen's having a conversation with Richard Madsen about what has gone on between me and Richard Madsen. And you know what I'm saying? It was one of them situations where honestly, I felt so abused. Like I didn't even want to be on the stream. Like, yeah, Richard Madsen had called me out. That's the only reason I was even there. But his chat, these people in his chat were so gross, so disgusting that like I had to close the side chat. Like I didn't even watch it, and that's because they were just that outrageous. And I really do think people
T-jump
they attack
advice:
me.
ignore the chat.
Yeah, but then I can't do what I do, right?
Oh, I know.
Because then that shuts me down on the lifeline to my
but I think
community. So that's why I have to be different in my chat.
Style of show too. Yeah, right on.
Isn't that Ox's thing to kind of like fuck with people and make?
But again,
I have no idea.
I don't know that. And again, that's what I'm asking y'all. Like, why is that okay? Like, why do we tolerate this? Because it hurts. It's abusive behavior.
All I can say, Jay,
and I
is
just
Mike and me are old, and we've just got a thicker skin to it because it's just like yawn. You know what I mean? I've been called names so many times.
But bro,
it's just
like at some point you gotta change the way you demand to be treated. Like
that's
I
what
was
I
the
did.
only black kid in all white school, so ain't nobody gonna sit here and talk about I don't have thick skin.
I used to call names back. I used to scrap with people, you know. But yeah, now it's like, hey, I can do that. That's easy. You know, that's
isn't
easy.
so. It isn't
I try
so
to
much
put my money where my mouth is, and you know, put up a good argument instead.
It isn't so much that I'm old and I have a thick skin. It's just that I believe anybody under 70 is a toddler. So
right.
Don't take them seriously.
And again, it's just like, I don't know. It's just a lack of nuance. And I don't get along with Carol the Atheist either. But this is what I mean. Every time I come out, it's like, I know, it's like I just get attacked for no reason. First off, like, again,
I've always been there with you,
black
Jay.
kid. I appreciate you.
I've always been there with you.
I was the only black kid in all white schools multiple times. None of these people who are making these comments have any idea about how thick my skin is. Yeah. But what it's about is, as a black man in America, I'm tired of having thick skin for everybody else's frailty.
Oh no, I'm not talking. You know,
and
when I said
no, I'm just saying. But these are the people who are.
Yeah.
I'm talking about these people are.
Right. Okay.
That's what they are.
Right.
And that's all they're here to do. Every time I'm on the screen, they're in attack mode. And yes, I got to yell at Richard Madsen. Richard Madsen apologized. I yelled at Richard Madsen for beef I had with Richard Madsen. That wasn't insulting Richard Madsen for who he was. It wasn't doing anything other than clearing the air about exactly what the beef between me and Richard Madsen was. But now, all of a sudden, those people get to come at me about my appearance, about my show, about my wrestling fandom, about my pinochle game with my dad. Like
they just jealous how sexy you are.
Yeah, exactly. Just insulting me. And again, now is that supposed to be the situation now? Where if I critique, I'm an evolutionary biologist. If I critique a creationist or I'm a counter apologist, I create somebody who, like Richard Madsen, I critique him because he invaded my show. He came on my channel, tried to hostilely invade my show to make me look like an idiot on some BS, and then called me out on his show. So I finally call in, and then again, I have to be subject to personal abuse because I'm calling somebody else. See what I'm saying? That's like, that's not right. That's not right. That's like
but you did talk to the dude. You know what I mean? Though you didn't. You know, you're like, hey man, let's, you know. So you hashed it out.
Yeah. So that's what I'm saying. What I'm talking about. That's fine between me and Richard Mack. What I'm saying is that should not be an invitation to the side.
Nobody else's business.
To be insulting a person. If you have two people disagreeing about their idea, let them two people hash out their ideas. But nobody, again, in other words, look at the people on my side. Right? It's people who have my side on that issue. None of them were making fun of Richard Madsen's appearance or talking about Richard Madsen. Nobody was insulting Richard Madsen, even if they felt like they were taking up for me. The problem is these people can't do that. It's like every time I come out, they're insulting me personally. And I'm going to touch on something else, community. There's not a lot of diversity in this community. I'm one of the only black people out here. There's very few of us, and most of that is congregated around me, right? My one black friend, Gin and Truth. Our clique is the clique that's disproportionately diverse. So, yeah, at some point it feels a little funny because it's like people you don't know, but I get sick of it. And yeah, after a while, it just feels like people treat you differently for some reason, and you just get sick of having to play the game, man.
Now I understand you, Jay, because I've done the same thing with Danny. He's been very insulting. He's a little dick. You know, he becomes a little dick, and I banned like 150 of his sock accounts because he was just a fucking dick, and he couldn't stop being a dick to me and other people. And I said, okay, fine. You want to be a dick? Go grow up and come back. You know. So yeah, I've done that too with one or two individuals. So I banned him. I don't know if you know who Dan
and
is.
again, now he's saying I'm crying, and he's in my ox. I don't know you, so you're lying. You're actually lying, and I do call out liars. Ox, you're lying. I don't know you. I never had conversation with you, so I was not talking shit to you or about you because I don't know you. I never addressed you. I was handling a situation with Richard, and even Richard Madsen apologized. So Richard Madsen basically granted that I called him out for reasonable reasons and that I didn't step out of line. And I was not, so I was not talking shit about you. So then you started popping off at me. Totally, exactly. It had nothing to do with you. So you're wrong. And now people are calling you out because they're exactly realizing it. You were insulting. I wasn't being rude. And again, that conversation had nothing to do with you. So I was upset. Yeah, I got a right to be upset at Richard Madsen. And again, you put yourself in that position. If somebody else, if two people are upset with each other and you don't understand what's going on and you start hurling insults at somebody because you think that you've identified who the correct party is and it turns out you're wrong, well, then you just put your ass in the flame for no reason. And that's my washing machine. So I'm gonna mute for a second.
Yeah, so drop it, Ox. Just drop it. Anyway,
well, James knows I took the high road when Hamza called me stupid, didn't I?
Yes, you did.
I got respect. I got respect in the chat for it. So you take your wins where you can, you know.
Yep.
Yeah, I mean,
and then they're telling me deal or
this,
disconnect. But again, you wouldn't come out unless I was here. You ain't have nothing to say in this chat until I came on here to talk about Peter W. This is what I mean about there's too much of this. Like I would they won't bring it to my channel because they know they get time out or cut off. But y'all, this is why I don't come through a lot of chats. This is what keeps me from engaging with my own community because I can't just come show Mike and James some love without having to deal with trolls. I can't go have a conversation with Richard Madsen without being called out. Y'all, I am not treated well in this fucking community and I'm sick of it. I'm sick of it. Jay I'm not holding my tongue about this shit no more. Now, I'm gonna put y'all in a hard position. It's going to be me or you, Ox. So you can let it go. Deal or disconnect. No, you deal or disconnect. Fuck out of here.
I asked him to shut the fuck up, and I had to time him out because
appreciate that.
Now we do here. So anyway, moving on. So what are you doing today, Jay, on your channel?
Man, actually, I'm streaming. I streamed already, so I was kind of just trying to clean up, doing some laundry with my broke ass laundry washer machine.
Yeah. I was just listening. I like the stream. I had a whole bunch of things rattling around in my head, and I thought I'd talk to James about them. And consciousness and a book I'm reading and some things that I'm, interpersonal relationships that I'm trying to amend and amend. Is that what that means? Amen? Is that amen? I don't know.
Depends what bar you're in.
Amen. Yeah, I guess so. Yep. Shit.
I caught that, Dave. I caught what you were saying.
I knew you did.
Yeah.
Ah, man.
I won't even deny it. I get flirted with as much by dudes as I do by women in real life, I mean. So, it doesn't bother me.
Yeah.
A free drink's a free drink. That's all I'm saying.
That's right.
I've been to some clubs, but I must have a neon sign on my head that says I'm straight. Of course, I was with my wife, so
yeah, that helps.
Yeah, no drinks were bought for me, but I'd appreciate the compliment. I don't know, why not?
I was going to be funny and say nobody ever flirts with me when I'm with your wife either, Dave, but I didn't want you to think I was being serious.
Me and my baby's good. We got 33 years under our belt. So
Nerdy says it was
take a lot more than that.
Wow. Yeah, take a lot more than that, I'm sure. Absolutely.
That's a lot of staying power there. My relationships tend to be shorter.
So, Mike, I have a question. So you were talking earlier about how you eventually realized the whole consciousness thing is kind of an illusion, right?
Yep.
Does that lead you to a place of thinking it's not productive to have these conversations? Because I feel like we have so many of these metaphysical conversations in this community. And at some point, I wonder if it's actually stopping us from making progress because they seem to be not practical conversations.
Right. Well, I believe that our way of thinking about consciousness and our way of thinking about our mind is stopping our progress in neuroscience and in understanding how to educate children and how to, basically how to be a human being. So in that respect, it's important to have the conversations because I am a minority as far as believing that consciousness is a concept, an illusion, right? And it's important to have those conversations because so many fucking people think in terms of this point source spirit mind, and we have a very unclear understanding of our mind. And modern neuroscience in the last 40 years has given us a whole lot of stuff that we need to understand about human beings, right? And even subjects like racism basically are based in that biological nature of the mind, how we deal with others. And we need to start looking at the science rather than this bullshit, that we have this culture or myth that we've created about our minds. And I think, like, if you educated children to the point where you told them when they're 8 years old that right around the time they're 12 years old, they're going to start having this urge to bully other males that are smaller than them, and that this is almost a biological mandate. My cats do it, right?
Right.
I mean, my cats do it, raccoons do it, apes do it, humans do it. So if we understand that you have a biological tendency to be an asshole, then I think if you understood it as biology, you could get around it with the rational mind, right? And we can make some fucking progress as a human race, right? And that's what I like.
So. I feel that way about like our sexuality, right? Like it's
exactly
repressed.
Big one.
The culture like makes you feel guilty for your natural sexual desires or even touching your own body. Traditionally, religions, really suppress it. And then I feel like the secular culture overcorrects to the point where it's almost like people sometimes talk to me like their sexual liberation is the purpose of life, like that, and it can become really destructive, right? Like you can't say no to certain things, or you destroy relationships based on needing to sort of hedonistically pursue your sexual desires. Whereas if we just kind of taught people like, you're gonna be horny as a motherfucker, right? And just like it's gonna really feel good to like lay around and drink and smoke weed all day, but you really shouldn't do it. Like you've got to, put some restraints on your urges. But if you don't teach people how to deal with it at all, then they don't know, and then they are going to be kind of, led by their tails or whatever.
Yeah, you can't let life be all about one.
I was thinking the same. I was just going to say I was thinking the same thing with education with the sexual thing. And when you teach kids, and then that little bit, even though that primitive brain's kicking in the back seat of the old Chevy, that little bit's going to kick in and say, "Oh, wait a minute," and they're going to reach for that condom. You know what I mean? That little bit is going to override that little bit that you need when know, oh yeah, I'm horny. You're right, like you were just saying. Yeah. Go ahead, James.
Yeah, but we teach them what the penis is and all that stuff, and about using condoms. But do we teach them what sexual jealousy is and what they're going to feel when they have it? Right. Do we teach them what it's like to have a crush on a girl?
And that hormones are going to make you do stupid things like ride a 10 speed through a blizzard and in
So
to go see some girl.
So I taught my kids. I taught my kids and told them a lot about what it is like to have a crush. Right when they were 10 years old, and when my son was like 12 or 13, he came to me and said, "Dad, I've got one of those things you were talking about." And he was looking at it as from the outside and trying to understand what he was going through, right, rather than reacting to it, you know. And I think that's the important kind of education we need to fucking do. You know, you're, you know, about othering, right? We like the people. You've got sports teams, right? You know, from one community to another community. I mean, if you understand that that is just a fucking game and a construct, then you're not going to be killing each other, right? You're just going to be playing ball. You're going to be playing the game seriously instead of trying to kill each other over the fucking game. There's a real difference when we understand what drives us, you know, biologically and as human beings. And all of that has been just documented in neuroscience so well in the last 40 years. And we're missing all that, and we're missing it partially because of these fucking Christians. You know, they want to maintain this idea of the spirit mind, and they don't want kids educated about this or that or whatever for whatever religious reason.
And every dream you have has some goofy meaning too.
Yeah, you know, we're never going to improve as a species if we don't fucking get over this shit.
Yeah, you got to teach the kids. No, dreams are. It's kind of like your brain defragging. You know, kids understand what when a computer does. Talk to them. Yeah, you know how your computer just kind of needs a little time to set everything straight. That's your brain. So yeah, you got all these little images flashing through and everything, and yeah, it doesn't mean that anything. It's just like if you were watching a computer defrag, all these little things would be flipping by, and then everything's all organized. Your brain is rested, and you're ready for the morning.
Yeah, I don't really, I don't believe in dreams. I don't know. They may exist, they may not. But what I do believe is that when you wake up, whatever kind of shit was jangling around in your mind, you create a narrative in the first 10 seconds of your waking, and that becomes your dream. So I believe we have our dreams as we are waking up, not while we're dreaming. When we're dreaming, it looks like a disc being defragged. I mean, it's just all nonsense. And then we put it together. We try to form a narrative out of it. And I don't know if that's true or not, if we actually have a narrative while we're sleeping. But the narrative happens when your consciousness starts to come back. And then you got all this shit dangling around because your sleep and your dreams are meant to clean out your hippocampus of yesterday's trash and to store the important parts, right? Like there was a bear over there on the left. I got to remember that part. Right.
Right.
That's why you do certain things well first thing in the morning.
Yeah.
That's really interesting.
They want kids to have certain subjects at certain times of the
earlier.
Day.
Okay.
Yeah, because you're better at like math versus creative writing versus studying, you know, like
I do
history class or something, or different times of the day.
I do all my molecular biology in the first 4 or 5 hours that I wake up. That's when I study, and I from like 4 a.m. until 8 or 9 a.m. And after that, I am worth shit.
Right. That's why I always feel bad on Jay's streams, because I'm like, you guys are getting my B game. Like I hold my own. Don't get me wrong.
Right.
But you guys get my B. It's in the evening. I'm spent by then.
Yeah.
Same here. I would jump onto more streams and I would do more streams, but I am like, it's after 4 now, and I'm pretty much worthless. I mean, it's gone. Whatever I had this morning when I contacted you, James, it's gone. The ability's not here.
Right. Yeah, I'm the opposite. Everybody knows. Just leave me alone for a little while. I need to have my tea, take a shower, slowly get motivated. Yeah,
me and my son.
I've never been able to do mornings. Never.
Me and my son kind of clash in the morning. Like he wakes up at 10 or 11 o'clock, you know, and he's down here getting a cup of coffee, and I've been up for like 4 hours and I'm fully caffeinated, and I just land on him and start just fucking dialoguing. Right? He's like, "Leave me the fuck alone."
I've got an elderly neighbor and 80 years old, and he's climbing up his antenna doing his ham radio stuff.
Yeah.
And hey, Dave, can you lend me a hand? And it's like, sure, you know. yeah, we're gonna get rolling about 7 a.m. It's like,
Yeah.
Dave, you're killing me.
Yep.
I have to go to bed early.
Well, my cat decided that the perfect time for humans to wake up is 3:30 a.m. And I've been putting him off until 4 a.m., but he's been keeping me regular. Like I get up pretty fucking early.
Damn.
Goddamn little monster.
Mike, there's something I wanted to ask you about too. So I found myself on a bit of this spiritual journey when I was in college. Like I still considered myself a Christian, but I started meditating, started I think exploring a little bit deeper, right? And when I look back at all that, there was a certain like consumerism to it all, I feel like now.
Really?
Like, yeah, like there was this sense in which I feel like I was trying to find myself or whatever, but really it feels like escapism now. It feels like I wanted to find this way to like zen out and let go of all worldly attachments, right? And it feels like this very sort of impractical thing now. And that's kind of what I was wondering about, sometimes these things being impractical. Like I think it's somebody in the chat mentioned, like, if that's where your brain's at, then that's what you got to do to like straighten yourself out. And I certainly would agree with that. But there's a way I got kind of hooked on it, and it almost feels like, I don't know, like I was trying to escape dealing with stuff in the world rather than just dealing with stuff in the world. And I don't know if anybody else can relate to that, I guess is what I'm wondering.
Yeah, there is a okay, the West has taken Buddhism and commercialized the fuck out of it, especially in California with all this bullshit. There are I call them Hollywood Buddhists. They believe in karma and all this fucking spirit bullshit. That isn't what I'm talking about with spirituality. I'm talking about a more simple way of managing our minds. Like, we learn how to manage our minds, and unfortunately, the way we grow up, we tend to like cogitate too much, even when we don't fucking need to. And what I'm talking about is getting back to the basics of being just a biological organism and calming the fuck down. And so that spirituality to me is just doing something without thinking about it. And that's it. And karma, like Hollywood Buddhism has karma as some sort of, what you do in this life is going to affect your next life and all this bullshit. Well, the real meaning of Buddhist karma is that we learn to recognize habits in our life, and we break out of our habitual cycles, and that's breaking out of your own karma, right? So it isn't that stupid spiritual, mystical, commercialized bullshit. And
karma is who you are. That's basically all it is. And you can change who you are.
Yeah, you can change your habits. You can break out of it, but it's really fucking hard to break out of your habit. I mean, if you've had multiple relationships, oftentimes we notice that it's like we keep marrying the same woman over and over again, right? That's karma. Right. That's habit. You try to break the cycle. You try to find out what are these pieces of me that are interfering with my, peaceful functioning as a human being. And so, yeah, I don't buy the Hollywood commercial meditation bullshit too much. I'm looking for something entirely different than that. So.
Yeah, no, I feel you, and I think that's what I was getting from your conversation earlier, that I was stuck in the more, and I don't even think it was the people around me. It was definitely just my own mental state, right, where I was looking for the woo-woo, right? And then I think that when things would happen in life, I felt like I should be able to habitually detach, right? Like, oh, there's stressful things on the news. Blah, blah, blah. Let me go sit in the room and meditate, right? And then that would give me permission to like check out, right? And I was almost like worshiping or like pursuing my ability to check out, rather than what you're saying, which is just realize like, okay, I might be having sensory overload right now, but let's just keep it moving. So yeah, I just wanted to speak to that because I think I was like guilty of it myself. So it resonated with me when you were talking about that.
Yeah, being being upset about something is a perfectly normal thing for us to do, and that's part of, you know, that's part of our nature, right? But being upset, like, okay, if you resent somebody, right, you have a resentment. Like, resentment is a poison that you drink hoping the other person will die. Okay, so you have a resentment and you're cogitating, oh, this person is over there thinking they got one up on me and all that stuff. And the reality is that this person hasn't thought about you for 3 weeks, right? And so we tend to take our minds and misuse it to the point where we get into like cycles of thinking and we make ourselves miserable. Another good example is depression. Okay. Depression is something that every human being feels because it's a normal biological function, right? And people that get further and further into depression do so for a couple reasons. One, they may have a serious neurotransmitter problem. They have a medical problem. But a lot of people get into it because you start feeling down a little bit, and then you say, oh, I am depressed, I am sad. And then you let your mind interfere with your emotions, right? Because there's a feedback loop between your emotions and your mind. It goes around and around and around. Like if you get angry, anger will make you more angry, right? And so a spiritual method of dealing with that is being able to shut off the shit that don't matter. And that's kind of what I'm trying to learn how to use my brain in a different way, right? To learn different skills to calm the fuck down. And I don't know. And that's all it is. I mean, it's just a biological way of being.
Absolutely. No, it makes total sense. I'm going to dip out so I can listen to you guys from the bleachers and get some more stuff done around the house.
We aren't long for this world because I got to get off and do something too. So
yeah, I was gonna say,
I
Jay,
appreciate you guys.
A Zen monk doesn't check out of reality. A Zen monk is so peaceful because he's accepted reality.
Yeah, he's like this thing
you know
about.
I mean? You don't escape it. You have to dissect it. You have to deal with it, and you say, okay, I'm sick. What do I have to do to get better?
To be honest, I think part of it was,
what do I have to do to pay the bill? And you just dissect it. You deal with it. That's part of reality. And then there's the stress and everything has gone away because
then you're done.
You've dealt with it.
Yeah. I think it was a lot of probably my Christian expectations of spirituality like bleeding over. Thanks, gentlemen. Great talking with all of you.
Thank you,
see you guys later.
Yep. Catch you later.
Later.
Anyway, I'm not locked in here with me. What? No, I'm not locked in here with you. You're locked in here with me. Okay.
Yeah, we share a lot of views on secular Buddhism, Mike.
Good. At least there's two of us. Kind of rare. Anyway,
I think the Dalai Lama even said, he said, don't use Buddhism to become a Buddhist. Use Buddhism to become a better whatever you already are.
Yeah. And there's, like you can choose a path, and your path may be being an angry motherfucker. So embrace it, do that, but do it, do it with some finesse, right? That sort of thing. So it's like this idea of detaching from the world and giving up all your belongings. Fuck no, that's not what it's about. Not at all. So it's about getting into the world more fully and not letting your mind drag you around, I guess. I'm tired of my mind being a fucking bully. My this therapist that I see had a comment where he said they have a Buddhist saying, if you see Buddha in the road, kill him. Mm-hmm. And we were talking about what exactly that means. And it's like, well, if you're trying to be a Buddhist and you think you are, or you think you become a Buddhist, you're not. That's not how you do it. It's just all these fucking contradictions, right? Or these contradictory things that you could say about Buddhism. And it's really kind of interesting. It's mostly about learning how to just let go.
The one I like is a Buddha will be misunderstood.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah.
And if you can't understand that, there's a reason that you can't understand that.
Yeah.
You have to understand it. It's not something that somebody else can do. You either understand it or you don't.
Yeah. Yeah. Grasshopper says, I've seen the light, and the master raps him on the head with his stick.
Yep.
Kind of like that. Anyway. How much I got to pay to get out of here?
All right, guys. Well, this has been fun.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. I needed some contact with you guys. I was just dying this week. Apparently I'm addicted to this fucking, talking to you guys. Anyway, so thanks, James. Thanks, Dave.
Appreciate
it. Good to talk to you.
Streaming 30 minutes.
Y'all have a good evening.
Okay.
Great.
You're going to stream in 30 minutes, James?
Gersh got a stream coming up in 30.
Oh, that bastard. He saw me streaming and he said, oh, I got to stream. Right. That's what he wrote.
That guy.
That guy. Yeah. Jeez.
You got to have that guy, though.
Yeah.
You gotta have that
nobody should watch that stream. It will cause cancer. So
I absolutely positively won't go over there in a half hour. Then
definitely don't go there. I won't go there either. In a half an hour when Gur is streaming. Okay.
In my queue.
So later, boys and girls, and
Later.
I'm gonna end it. Goodbye, cruel world.